going, gentlemen?
Not bad, man. Not bad.
Hello, ladies. This is Val Venus, and I've joined the cast. That's Canon.
For this issue, this R-rated issue.
This is the next evolution of his career. He joins our podcast. That's amazing. Is he still alive?
He's still alive. Actually,
I didn't even hear who you said.
Val Venus from... He actually retired from wrestling and is a weed, distributor because it helped save some type of... or helped him cope with some type of medical issue.
Depression. A lot of those guys...
an actual reason. An actual, ailment. Well, I mean, sorry, not depression. Really? Not that depression isn't an ailment, but
sounds like that's what you're saying.
No, I meant to say not a physical ailment, not a psychological one.
Okay, so that's probably more like CBD and stuff like that, if anything. All right, that's cool. That's cool. Good for him.
I see some shade being thrown.
Mike Tyson owns a weed farm now too, so I guess there's something going on there.
There's a lot going on.
That's the thing I don't understand. How can they own that? It's federally still not approved, right, in the States?
It depends where you are.
Know. Yeah, I really don't know what the regulations are, but I read something or heard something recently on a podcast about him, 40 acre, some huge farm where he's going to be
40 acres
growing.
and a mule?
Yeah, I guess that's where I was going with that. Something about him growing his own weed, and I think he's going to be a distributor. I really don't know. I should have looked into it more before I said anything. But.
Mike Tyson weed makes you punch somebody.
Well, hopefully it's the opposite.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the whole legalizing weed versus alcohol. It's no one who gets high is going to be out there acting erratic. It's the complete opposite effect of alcohol.
You just want to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say this though: if you're smoking and driving, that's a no-no, guys. I know that people have been saying, "Oh, weed's not that bad," but there've already been accidents where people have been smoking weed, and same as drunk driving, also very dangerous.
You have to regulate yourself. If you have a drink, you should know when you're able to drive again. If you're gonna smoke, you should know when you're able to drive again.
Yeah.
Be responsible. Just that some people are stupid and oh yeah, it's normal. I'm going to do it while I'm actually driving. You're would you drink? Would you have a coffee mug? I mean, I bet there's some people have a coffee mug full of vodka, but you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, it just sucks to hear because also, if you are someone who generally supports the culture, the weed culture, or what is it, head culture? I think is that some people refer to it as,
or hemp culture.
Hemp culture. If you really are a supporter of the culture, and then you're gonna smoke and drive and cause an accident, you are pushing the culture back. So if you genuinely believe in what weed can do for people and the benefits, don't hold it back by doing things like that. Just be responsible, do what you want to do what people fought for so long, and it's finally legal in Canada. And if you're going to do it, do it responsibly. And I know we sound like old people saying that, but I'm saying that as...
I like to use the word responsible people.
Yeah,
listen, if you are going to do it, just smoke up, go to a parking lot and drive around, just practice for a while.
No, but you know what? That sounds funny, but it's true.
Huh?
I said that sounds funny, but it's true though. It's because the problem is that you have a lot of people who are oh, I never smoked before because it was bad. I'm nervous, but now I like it because it's legal, guys. So now we can do whatever we want because everyone else says they can do it, and you're like. Yeah, people who've been smoking for 10 years and gotten a very high tolerance and don't laugh like little schoolgirls when they take a puff, those people know what they're doing. You, Mr. 40-year-old trying it for the first time because you blasphemed it for so long. No.
I'll never forget. Sorry.
There's definitely a feel. Same thing with alcohol. If you've never if you haven't drank before and you drink for the first time in your there's a feel, what the buzz is if you have experience, right?
Yeah.
That first time, first couple years is people go overboard with a lot of things.
Mm.
So, yeah.
But yeah, about comic books.
What's up, guys? Yeah. So that's Canon. We're going to be talking about a comic book today called... You know what? I won't even say its name. You guys introduce it. No, I'm joking.
Come on. Just for that, you have to say it.
This one is We Stand on Guard by a Brian K. Vaughan. We've done a couple... Actually, we did what?
Saga?
Yeah, we did Saga. We did Why the Last Man.
Empress? Isn't Empress his?
Oh, no, Empress is Mark Millar.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've done...
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done 2 or 3, maybe even 4 of his titles. Brian K. Vaughan, definitely a podcast favorite.
Prolific author.
Yes,
he's a veteran.
Very much so. Very much. All those credits, all those accolades, all those status, all due respect to him. Very, very well. And I appreciate his writing. Except in but anyways,
that's how Brian butters people up before a review.
So Brian K. Vaughan and artist Steve Scroce, is that how you pronounce that?
We're just gonna say Scroce.
Scroce, okay. So Brian K. Vaughan, Steve Scroce, Matt Hollingsworth, and lettering done by Phonographics Designs, lettering and design. And coordinator Eric Stevenson was on this project. So this is an Image comic title that came out a couple years ago. I think we are looking at something that came out 2015. August 2015 is when... Well, this particular issue 2, came out 2015. I'm guessing the other one came out July 2015.
July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st. Oh, Canada Day. That, obviously.
Yeah, makes sense.
That was silly of me. So, are any of the people connected to this Canadian? Does anyone know? Vaughan, Scroce, Hollingsworth.
Here.
Anyone? Because
I'm getting on the interweb.
So
keep it on the main page.
Do we
talk about stuff?
Brian K. Vaughan, I already know he's from Cleveland.
The home of Superman.
Oh boy! You started.
Steve Scroce is Canadian.
Who's Canadian? Steve Scroce?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Go down. There's other names.
Hollingsworth. Matt Hollingsworth the third.
We've seen stuff from him too, I think.
Of the Baltimore Hollingsworth.
Definitely not Canadian.
No, he's from Cali.
California fail.
You have a Canadian in the mix, and you have someone from Cleveland, so they do go.
Yeah,
I mean they do in both places in the comic book. So
there we go. They're trying.
There you go.
That's pretend.
So the comic book we're reading today, like Doc said, I don't know if you actually said it. It's called We Stand on Guard. And I guess you want me to read the.
Take it away, Tobes.
All right, let's do this.
He's got that good narrator voice.
Read.
He does. Ladies, calm down. It's just a voice in your podcast. Yeah. God, be happy they can't.
It's not like there's a reason he's called the Adonis.
Just wait till I take my shirt off.
Oh no!
All right. So this
all the
is
ladies and the gay men have just thrown their headsets out. They're like, I can't handle this.
They're like, we want this to be a video recorded.
Welcome, one and all.
Hit us, Tobes.
All right, so this is an action-packed military thriller. It goes 100 years from now. 100 years from now. Wow, I didn't even know it was that long ago.
That much in the future, yeah.
That much in the future, yeah. But it makes sense, actually, with the mech warriors they have going on. Anyway, 100 years from now, a heroic band of Canadian civilians must defend their homeland from invasion by the United States of America. And that's pretty much it.
From America.
That's pretty much it. It's like 100 years from now, a heroic band of Canadians must defend their homeland from invasion by the United States of America. And the whole thing is pretty much freedom fighters versus giant-ass fucking robots. Pretty much.
Driven by Americans.
I gotta say, Brian K. Vaughan, I gotta ask you, did you steal this one from that John Candy movie, Canadian Bacon? Because
he got drunk, watched Canadian Bacon. It's like, I could do this better.
No, but the best part is, it's not even that he could do that better. He got drunk, watched Canadian Bacon, woke up the next morning, forgot he watched it, and then wrote a comic book and was just like, yeah, this sounds cool.
So,
and then
is that your elevator pitch?
Yeah, my elevator pitch. Oh wait, okay.
I was gonna ask you that too.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. In my elevator pitch, Brian K. Vaughan got drunk, watched Canadian Bacon, passed out. Oh, maybe smoked a little too. Woke up the next morning and was just like, whoa, that was a weird dream. Because he couldn't see the faces in the dream. He decided to just write this story, and then he changed it up. He's just like, okay, I'm going to change this character's gender, this character's race. We're going to add a little bit of this. We're gonna add some spices, Salt Bae style. Just going to sprinkle a little bit on top and make it cool, and it's going to appeal to everybody. There you go. That's my pitch. That's my pitch, guys. Canadian Bacon from a drunk Brian K. Vaughan who had been smoking or doing shrooms, one of those two. Whichever one has you hallucinating huge mechs in the 100-year future, running around stomping things. Whichever one does that. And you know what? I don't even feel bad saying that, because if you look at the first panel, it really does look like something that someone did while high. Like the first panel, panel in the first issue, and the first panels, or the second page in the second issue, really colorful. Like really, really colorful. They're just That's all. There you go. The littlest Robo on the screen. Shout out to the littlest Hobo. If you're Canadian, you know that show.
So Little Hobo was on the screen? Where?
Yeah, on the screen in the second issue, it says the littlest Robo, and it's like a nod to the littlest Hobo. Like, there's all these.
I missed that, man. I gotta go back and read, because I actually even missed on the second panel in the first issue that it says Ottawa, Ontario, 2112.
Yeah,
as the year. I actually missed that too. I don't know why.
There's a few
Maybe there's
things.
too many colors going on, I guess.
That's what I was saying.
It's so pretty. I can't concentrate.
Exactly. There's even a Ronald McDonald throwing up in the background in the
What?
Yeah,
what?
on the poster.
I like how Dave and I are like.
Yeah, there's all these like little things. See, I didn't like the comic, so instead of reading the thought bubbles, I looked everywhere else on the page.
You were looking for entertainment.
I was just like, where can I be entertained?
And you know what? They probably had a contingency plan for people like you and did that. So they're like, if they don't like what we're writing, they'll probably like what we're drawing.
Yeah, there you go.
So
okay, who else has?
I'll do my elevator pitch. So get into the elevator, and I look at my boss. I'm like, yo, man. So I'm gonna write a post-apocalyptic story about how Canada and U.S. finally go to war. Boss responds, yo, man, that's a little too real. How about it's 100 years in the future? It's a little bit too make-believe, but the Americans are winning. All right, I'm good.
Yeah,
that's
really
it.
not much. There's really not much.
There's no
It's really just as short as the byline was. There's really not much to the elevator picture. It's like the nightmare scenario, right? Canada versus U.S. We're so close that eventually that we all think that's going to happen at some point. If the Americans decide to come after us, this is probably what will happen to begin with.
Yeah.
And what are they after? Our hydro, our water. That's pretty much what the main thing is here.
The thing that drives me crazy with the idea. Actually, no. I'll wait till the.
Yeah, that's a review.
I'll wait.
Well, it's pretty much done. There's no real elevator pitch aside from what we all just said already.
Yeah,
so
true.
yeah.
That's true.
Okay,
All right, cool.
We're going into the next segment, folks.
Cool.
We're doing the big one, the big gun, the big show, the raw flow. We like to get into the ring with it, throw those punches, verbal punches. I don't know.
Throw them bows.
Throw them bows. Yeah, there
Throw
you go.
those hypothetical bows.
It's gonna get crazy in the pit.
Judgment call.
So it's
Judgment call.
Myself, Doc, versus Toby.
That's right.
I'm coming off a loss. Dave has a 2-game win streak going on here for some reason.
I know. I had to
This
take
is
a break.
a whole.
I had to
This
give you guys
season.
some
This season is a whole new Dave. I want season one. I want season 1 Dave back.
the irrational, going over his time, yelling at people, getting penalties.
I don't like this composed, this new prepared version of Dave. I feel like we're battling an android or something right now. Speaking of Android, our next issue is going to be based on one.
Oh yes.
So you want to just let them know what Judgment Call? I mean, at this point, if you don't know what Judgment Call is, turn the damn podcast off and go back to season 1.
Yeah, I was about to say, whoa, calm down. Go back.
Yeah, go back and listen to all the
yeah.
episodes. Notice we didn't even do our introductions at the beginning because, like we said, you guys don't need to hear our names at the beginning. You already know what you're listening to.
Oh, that's right.
That's canon,
go.
baby.
That's how it is.
I defend a character, the other guy defends a character, and that's pretty much all you need to know. And then we pick a winner at the end.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm just gonna say I like the tagline: "Fight for your right for your character to be in the spotlight." I don't know why. I feel like it rhymes enough that it's kind of catchy.
It's fine.
It's because you made it up. That's why you want to say it all the time.
Listen, I don't hate on your music at the beginning of the episode. No,
Which we appreciate. Please let us keep using it.
That was an empty threat. I swear.
Oh man!
All right.
All right.
So
today it's Doc and I.
Yeah, so-
Dave's the judge.
You got a timer?
I got the timer ready. I'm debating on who's gonna go first.
Oh wait, hold on. I have to pull up my character.
Oh, someone's not at the.
Well, I'm ready, but I mean, in this time, Toby could have already started. By the way.
Oh no!
Mm.
Oh, pressuring the judge, eh? taking those notes down. But
why are we not starting?
No, seriously. We'll start with Toby.
All right,
you good?
That's fine.
Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so I had a hard time picking a character today for some reason, but I think digging back into my comic book, what I liked most about this troupe of, I don't want to say Avengers, they are warriors of the X variety. There is a character in this group that I've always liked. He has seen the spotlight, but he's never been done right. Oh, you like that? You like that little
Yeah, you've mystery before.
And his name starts with Night, is the rest of my line. Nightcrawler.
Okay.
I feel like Nightcrawler hasn't been done right, aside from the first time we've seen him on screen where he has that battle scene in X2, I believe, in the White House, which is one of the best and action sequences I've ever seen, and I've watched that probably like 200 times. But we don't really get to ever dig into more about his story. He's always just found as a destitute and someone who needs help, but we never know how exactly he got to where he was. This is someone who grew up as a devout Catholic, but because of his demonic appearance, he's never really fit in, or even that makes it difficult to attend Mass, I would assume. If you're a Catholic and you look like a demon, nobody really wants you in there. And there's a whole part of his story that's never really touched on, is the fact that he is actually in one of the universes, I'm assuming anyway.
I'm putting on pause.
Mystique.
Yeah, repeat the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, so there's something that's never really been touched on, is the fact that he's actually Mystique's kid, which is something that is never really brought up, and I think there's a lot more to be explored there. He's someone who was shunned at birth because of his blue skin, and unlike Mystique, he was never really able to shapeshift and change his appearance and really blend in with people. So just seeing how he came to be as a person, as a human being, because he is one, that would be something we definitely could explore a bit more. Mystique, actually, also, there's a whole thing about her like throwing him over a ledge as she was being chased down by a group of people trying to hunt him down. So, I mean, there's got to be some sort of love, and not even a love, just a hatred relationship between him and her, which again is never touched on. It's almost like they don't know each other from. I guarantee you ask anyone and they don't know about this guy, his history. His powers and abilities, I don't know how much time I have left, so I'm just going to go through that. Okay. Powers and abilities are, I guess, jumping from teleporting. Let's see here. He has the ability to teleport himself and a certain amount of additional mass from one point to another virtually instantaneously. He does this by displacing himself through an alternate dimension briefly and reappearing in a desired and pre-selected location. He's pretty skilled in combat, but I mean, you don't really need to be when you can teleport every 2 seconds and, take your enemies out. And like I said, go see that scene from X2 because that's the best possible depiction of his abilities you'll see.
Cool. You get an extra 5 seconds.
Perfect. Let me know when you're ready, kids.
And Doc, get your gloves up. You're going in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey everybody, I'm going to be talking about Xandal Randolph, aka Bulletproof. He's a character from the Image universe that is based on Invincible. Now, one of the things that's the most important about Invincible is Invincible was originally written to be a satire of superhero powers and superhero characters. That was the whole idea. The whole thing was meant to be kind of a joke. The main character, Mark Grayson, his name Grayson was a play on Dick Grayson. His powers are very similar to that of Superman. All the characters, all the superheroes, the Guardians of the Globe, all the teams, everything was very much based on merging aspects of DC superhero lore and Marvel superhero lore and just kind of exploring that in a satirical way. However, once the satire was stripped away after a good couple issues and Kirkman realized he actually had good and well thought out characters, because one of the arts to satire is to know your source material and to take that and to play on it, but to also develop it into something of its own. And in doing so, you make the characters more interesting. And what he did was make Bulletproof one of the most interesting. So Bulletproof is a character who has a twin brother. His brother is a mad scientist and does experiments. For some odd reason in this universe, twin brothers also have twin DNA. That's not neither here nor there. But because Tyrone decides to test his experiment for superpowers on his brother Xandal, he actually ends up giving Xandal superpowers, but he kills himself in the process. On a family front, this kind of turns into a crazy thing because Bulletproof then ends up having to pretend to be his brother because the parents always favored him. So his personal life is kind of a mess. But at the same time, he got to be a superhero. He got to be a guardian. He got to do some of the most amazing things. And one of the reasons I think he's worth writing about is because they only wrote about Invincible in Invincible's universe. They did a few comics on some other major characters, but they never focused on some of the side characters. And now that they have the universe established and Invincible's done, they could really go back and tell stories from the perspective of the other characters. They could go in and tell new stories from the perspective of other characters. There are tons of cool characters in this universe that they could do. There's one character who can predict every outcome like Nicolas Cage in Next and runs through all the scenarios, and he's kind of like a mix between Batman and dual gun swinger. I don't know why he has dual guns, but those types of characters are super interesting. And the reason I'm picking Bulletproof is because Bulletproof has energy absorption, flight, interstellar travel, self-sustaining, invulnerability, enhanced healing factor, superhuman reflexes, superhuman strength, superhuman stamina, superhuman speed, and he has indomitable will, charisma, and he's an artist. So one of the things that makes him so interesting to me, his power set is similar to many other characters. Don't get me wrong. I get that. But we haven't seen those characters or those stories told in this universe. And on top of that, we have the advantage of someone who is different, new, and interesting in a universe that could be a lot of fun.
I beg to differ.
That's okay. You have your minute.
Yeah, you have your minute. He's like already he's on the guns. All right. So, Toby, you get your rebuttal in 3, 2, 1, go.
Invincible. I mean, you already tried to preempt what I was going to say by saying he's more of the same, which technically he is. Same power sets we've always heard of. Superman complex. That whole thing is going to come into play here. Guardians of the Globe? Kind of Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff is this character. There's really not much else to say. What's his name again? Xandal Randolph? Mm-hmm. Sounds like one of those like Key and Peele football player names. I mean, there's really everything you said. Nothing really stuck out to me here. He just sounds like a typical boring. He got superpowers and now he has to save the world. Kind of. There's no emotional trauma. There's nothing there. It's that from what his twin brother, who's named Tyrone for the double dose of black names. I mean, there's really like, it's just a lot of stereotypical same old thing going on here. I don't think anybody really wants to see that now. So
fair enough. All right. He came out swinging, bro. You better have,
oh yeah,
like,
don't worry.
This bromance you guys got going on every time you guys go in there. He's getting over it. He's getting over it real quick.
I need a win, damn it.
He's going for the jugular. He's pulling off that Steven Seagal going for your throat in Under Siege.
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
All right, you ready? Okay, so 3, 2, 1, yep.
The first thing is, the character you selected is so popular and has been done so many times and has so many stories out there that we all knew everything you were saying. Every single part of what you said was information we already have because they write this character all the time. They may not have written every aspect of him, but there's only so much you can tell before you make it boring for people, because that's what's going to happen if you start to try and delve into the details and minutia behind the little boy who cried and was so sad because mommy was a bad guy and daddy was a this, and he poofs and puffs and disappears into little realities, and he's so sad and he's religious and he's in love with Storm. And notice how I know everything, because we know everything. It's already been done. Nightcrawler's been done to death, almost to the point where I don't care about him. Nightcrawler is one of the most overused, over uninteresting, over manipulative characters with so much Christian background that I'm just like, why would I want a god man in this whole story? Get out of here. We already have enough Christianity in the world that's destroying things. We don't need a guy who can poof paff and go every place else with it. Missionary. Bong.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. But all right.
that was like,
you may know all about Nightcrawler, bro. A lot of people don't in the mainstream. Whatever we see in the mainstream. Anyway, I'll let Dave.
Okay. Everyone,
I stopped myself. I stopped myself.
You know what? You want 5?
5 seconds.
I'll give him 5. I'm giving him 5.
Why? Why are you doing this? I didn't even finish my point.
You could finish your point as long as you can do it. You want 5?
No, I don't want. I stopped myself. I
He's
just said
nervous.
that, so there's no point.
I'm giving 5. I'm giving 5.
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm not.
The Invincible universe is new, and it's something outside of the norm. We could finally see interesting stories not held by the same stuff.
So
There we go.
I'm happy. First of all, I want to say this. I'm happy you guys are bringing up your A game. This is fun. This is fun. Now I know how you felt when you watched us for the first time. That was fun. So, first of all, you guys made perfect points for each. I completely agree with Toby. Nightcrawler, although if you dig, you could find, but on the popular versions of stuff that they've done, Nightcrawler has been underutilized. There's a lot of stuff that there's even stuff that you haven't been able to touch on, like his version of Age of Apocalypse, which is very interesting as well.
His version of House of M, the fact that he's the son of Mystique and Azazel. Anyway,
whoa! You're going to start getting some penalties now.
I will take that
when I
5
started
second penalty.
No. Last time I did that was a minute. Just going to throw that out there. As for Doc, you've been preaching the Invincible universe for a while. I appreciate that. However, there is a problem. I agree with the concept that you just described, essentially like Martian Manhunter merged with Superman merged with like Cable's like ability to like time travel.
Martian Manhunter?
Well, all the movesets that you said, like there was just so many that okay. So there is that problem there.
I mean, that problem's also within DC.
That is within DC,
okay.
But the other problem is that they also haven't set anything up for Invincible. So this is actually really hard. I don't like when you guys make it, and then I have to look at Toby, who's looking at me with all those eyes.
There's something about having like 2 minutes that makes me rush things sometimes. There's just so much more to say sometimes. Anyway.
Although I agree with both, the favor goes to Bulletproof this time, or Bullet, whatever his name is.
Damn it.
And it's only because, honestly, it's because you said once you did a great job, Toby. But the only reason is this: one of the things that you talked about specifically, the Mystique and Nightcrawler dynamic. Comic book fans, if anything, know there's X-Men the animated series, which they cover it actually very well. There's actually an episode where Rogue and Nightcrawler find out that because she's adopted and he's her actual son, that they become like brother and sister. But when I say Brian won not even by like 51 to 49. He won by like 50.5 to 49.5. Because I completely, utterly agree with both. I wish I could choose both, but I can't. And the Invincible universe does sound that it needs to start.
It's ripe for the picking.
But I'm telling you this: that's the last time you get to bank on the Invincible universe. I'll be much harsher on your future ones.
Are we
keep banking on it? That's all I'm saying. You keep banking on it.
Are we then saying that we should no longer be able to do DC or Marvel either?
No. I'm just saying,
because you're telling me I can't bank on a universe that hasn't been pillaged, but we can continuously return to
you know what?
Two universes.
I digress.
That have been...
I take it back.
I'm just pointing out,
but I'm still gonna be harsh on you. I just feel like
that's fine.
It's only because you're bringing up your 8 games. So
just means I have to pick more obscure and interesting characters from a universe that is not tapped yet.
Fair.
You know what? Next time I'm just gonna go for Yorick from Why the X-Men. Why the X-Men? Whoa. Why the last man?
If you pitch it like that, you're just not making it through the gates, sir. But okay, cool. So that was Judgment Call. It was very, very good effort though on both parts. If anything, it's getting more interesting because now it's really becoming pulling at hairs.
Oh yeah, the battles. It's usually like really
it's starting to become like really, really close. All right, so now
picked my next character just off of this.
So now we're going into the review. So I want Brian to start this one. I feel like we should get out with the dynamic.
What? I love this. Brian.
Well, yeah, I actually really want to know what you didn't like about it, because this was a fun read for me.
Yeah.
There definitely are very like thin characters in this, which makes it hard to get invested in them, which is also the best part because it's kind of like what's that show? Like The Walking Dead, in the sense that, like, you know, as soon as you start thinking a character is interested and cool, boom, they die, and then the next man up. You know, it's kind of like that. It moved at that pace. The story was moving. There was never really a chance to relax. I didn't know what to expect going into this, but I didn't hate what I was reading either.
That's fair. I mean, that's all accurate, too. I think for me, one of the issues was, while I was reading it, I don't know if I had just watched Altered Carbon or I must have been watching Altered Carbon at the same time. And I got this sense of that kind of hint of post-apocalyptic sense where the stories are so similar sometimes that while I was reading that, and while I was watching that show, and while I was thinking of the absurdity behind the idea of America doing this with no global ramifications, it just seemed weird. Like, I think it was hard for me to separate myself as a Canadian, obviously, watching a story in which, and something we are factually concerned about with our water, that the Americans do want our water. This is something that people have been saying, that our protected lakes and all that stuff, we've lifted the protection on them under our last prime minister. That Nestle and the monetization of a resource that a lot of people should feel is free, and the idea behind that everything has a value to it, even water. We're made up of 60%, 70%, some number like that of water. And then this story is kind of just that. I guess it was just I feel like the story was based on trying to make us in North America understand what it feels like when America goes in somewhere trying to take your resources. And it felt too real and too serious to be told in kind of a jokey, like, oh, hey, but that's me. And that's my that's my personal take on things, and I sometimes overanalyze. Actually, I always overanalyze. You guys know that. Yeah. It's one of the reasons we like doing this show, because we get to overanalyze. But reading this at the time and watching Altered Carbon and thinking of all the, like, real ramifications in the world, and then being like, man, this is a little close to home. Like, you know, the Americans decide they want the water and the resources, so they're going to go in and, you know, they're going to take care of things and put us in a place where we are the villains. You know,
they make mention also of this. I don't know if this is real history. There's a few things that I really should have double checked or done some investigative work on. But there was a time back in the 1930s or 1920s where Canada was going to team up with England. I forget what they mentioned here. Let me try to find it before I make this point.
Okay.
Dave, if you want to just touch on anything else you thought of the time.
I'll say one thing that was interesting about this book, just reading it, and something that I thought was just generally cool is, like, it would spark drastic different reactions if you were from the US reading it than if you're Canadian reading it, and even if you're someone who's Quebecois and reading it, because, you know, there's one thing that was a little risque with this book was they had people speaking a different language and didn't translate it, which is usually a common thing that does happen. Either people put like a star and they put the translation at the bottom, or they put like a star and they say, oh, this is translated from French or whatever, Russian, and whatever.
Mandarin or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of interesting. So it's like, I feel even as someone from Quebec, we're reading it differently than someone from, like, let's say BC, because also 100%. We're closer to hydro in the sense of, like, how we perceive it and whatnot. So I thought that was cool. Something else about the book in general that I thought was interesting was the concept that, like, and I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure to say it properly, but it's like, on top of being the bold, it's really brutal in both the reality, the action, the horror aspects, and even the torture that they do in this book.
Thank you.
It is. And, like, don't get me wrong, I feel like the book is about fear. Like, it's a book too.
It is. Yeah.
It's supposed to be entertaining. It's like, because, like you said, it's like Walking Dead, in the sense that it's a very serious topic. Like, Walking Dead tries to take a made up scenario and just bring you to how it would feel. Like, whereas this is an actual possibility. Maybe we won't live through it in our lifetimes.
Well, that's why they projected 100 years from now.
Exactly, but, like, the ramifications of what's going on could be true. The fact that they're saying, like, example, at one point in time, they're like, oh, they imply that the U.S. is using this to don't look at our problems, look at other people, and that's the problem. We're not going to deal with our problem, which is a problem I find in any country, really. That's not a U.S. thing. So that was really like, wow, really, you're starting an entire war because you want to like not have the president look bad or something, which, Trump.
Well, and this actually, in the first couple panels, this started with the White House. Just to give people a little context here, the White House is being bombed. Like, our first intro is to this family watching on the news, America being invaded or the White House being bombed, and the family is discussing, the Americans will be bombing Algeria by morning, and this is the guy in the house, the man of the house, and his wife is like, well, how do you know that? It could be another domestic group in the U.S. and they pretty much hypothesize into what's going on. And I think the wife, what was her role in all this?
Isn't she something like in agriculture or something? No.
Yeah, she's actually connected. Hold on, I'm trying to remember.
She's in some form of politics.
Yeah.
And she's getting like a live feedback because everyone has these implants now in their eyes where they can kind of just like, feed into
the internet.
It's kind of internet, whatever, for lack of explanation here. And literally, as they're discussing the possibilities of who's attacking the U.S., bombs just start dropping on. They're in Ottawa, by the way, in Canada, in the year 2112, and bombs with the U.S. Army labels just start dropping on them, and before they can even have a chance to react, boom, the family gets blown up, the husband and wife get blown up, the kids survive. And our story from here on out follows the kids, the daughter Amber and her brother, I forget his name right now, Tommy, and it just follows their story on where they pretty much end up after that and who they meet along the way. And then we start getting more information on what the purpose for this war was, who's winning, who's being captured, who's being tortured. And they torture people by pretty much hooking them up to these machines and going into their minds, and torturing them in that way so they can pretty much, and they make sure they feel everything that's going on in that torture in their head in real life.
And this is where the altered carbon aspect came in, because remember, altered carbon had a similar thing where whenever they were interrogating. So that's I don't know why, but when I was reading,
this came first. So
of course,
they stole,
Well, and remember, I like it came first, but we ended up reading it after, and I definitely must have read it at a similar time when I was watching the show, or maybe just before, because I just remember thinking when I was reading this or when I was watching Altered Carbon, I've seen this exact thing. And I will say this. I will say that the torture aspect, because that's what I was trying to lean to, is done in one of the most disgusting ways.
Creepy.
Like, it's one thing,
fucking creepy.
Like burning the girl
over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, she dies and like feels all that, and then it
comes back.
Starts the next day.
But then to take it one step further,
the father thing,
and
was,
have her father come in and threaten to molest her.
Yeah,
that's where I was just
I put down the book.
Yeah, I was just dude, I get like the shock value, and
it worked.
Writing comic books to like really freak people out and really get at you. But we already live in such a messed up world. Like, why would you want to write a story in which this?
Well, this is Brian K. Vaughan we're talking about.
I know, and that's the messed up part. That's the messed up part. It's just the fact that, to write the story, I mean, I would think burning someone repeatedly alive is bad. I would think drowning them. I would think waterboarding is bad. But then to, like, the only positive memories that she can hold on to and then use that against her to make a creepy version of her father who essentially says, I want to make love to the rest of you. I would never hurt you. It's like the vomit just started coming up out of me.
Exactly.
I was just like, Brian K. Vaughan, you are one of the sickest people I know.
But it was,
because this is the leader of the resistance that they captured.
Yeah. You were going to say
Hissy
Stones.
Exactly. Hissy Stones. Because there's some French in here, which is kind of welcoming, because I understood everything. Anyway. So they captured her, and, she's not going to break. She's tough.
Yeah.
Everything they're throwing at her, she's resisting. Huh?
I said that was character development for her, though.
She was probably the most developed character.
They show that, even though you kind of waste her. But
Yeah, she was definitely the most developed character. And going back to what I was mentioning before, so in British North America, the War of 1812
Yes.
is actually where we claim, or Canadians claim, that they actually successfully defended Canada against an American takeover.
Yeah.
So this kind of draws on that, saying that ever since then, there's been talks of a plan of the U.S. wanting this to happen at some point. They've been planning this again to take over Canada ever since the War of 1812. So they touch on that a little bit here as well.
And
I don't know if Canada actually has a contingency plan for such a scenario.
But that's
poison the water.
That's God. that unfortunately that's like the robots in Matrix, because that's like scorch the sky so that everyone gets destroyed. So poisoning the water would definitely be a horrible plan, because it would mess us up too. But I could also see how it gets that desperate by, like, I would rather, remember when we were doing Saga, the whole idea of, like, I'll kill the baby before I'll hand the baby over?
Exactly.
That's Canada is the baby, and we will poison the water and kill ourselves before we let you take it. Yeah. And that's the scary thought. When you read this comic, there's that scary thought of how far would we go to try and stop America from gaining the resources and the landmass and just running amok.
Yeah, and we say we, but I'd like to think about how would any community do it.
We're as Canadians,
just so anyone, because obviously people listening and like, oh, we're Canadians talking
Shout
about
this. Shout out to our Irish listeners, because I saw those numbers popping.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah.
But no, it could be on any side. We're not trying to say, we're just having to take the perception of the book, and we so happen to be Canadian, so it touches home.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's kind of interesting, there's a lot of different versions of the play on fear. Even if you think about it, the kids are maybe, when the original thing happens, they're maybe 4 and 7. Yeah, then 2 years later, they're on the run. They find another Canadian hobo, and he's showing them a map of Canada, and he's like, oh, the red part is where they've taken over. In which case it's all but
Northwest
Territories. 2 territories, not even provinces, territories. So
only the territories are
everyone else listening to it. Imagine it's states, and then I don't know, Alaska. It's this, all of the states are taken care of, and then we have Alaska still. That's basically the equivalent of what's going on, and it's really scary. If you were to think about it that way, and that's where they have to hide out.
And I also, it's funny because I also know that it's a comic book and fictional when they show Americans going all the way north, all the way to Ivijuk and stuff like that. Because I'm like, Americans couldn't handle that cold. We, as Canadians, can barely handle that cold.
I was at the Crown there. I've actually been at Kuujjuaq.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, for my job.
Yo, okay, I need to explain to you people, if you're not from Canada, we're talking some of the coldest places in the country.
-51 is what I was.
Jesus.
You blink and your eyelids freeze because there's condensation. If you have a scarf and the condensation goes up to your eyelids get a bit of that condensation. So when you blink, your eyes actually slightly freeze.
Okay, and just to explain for Americans real quick, Fahrenheit and Celsius meet at -40. That's where they are the same. So when he says -51, that's Celsius, and that is damn fucking cold.
Go,
and you guys
go onto
can get
an app converter type thing.
And for those who watch Game of Thrones, we're technically the Starks up here in Canada.
Yeah.
I went beyond the wall.
Not even.
We're the wall,
Not even. We're the White Walkers.
Yo, for real.
But no, but it's just it's the book is just interesting, that the different facets of fear and then the outcomes. Perfect example, when they find our main character Amber. Well, when the 2-4 find Amber, she's slightly hurt because she got into a scuffle with one of the American mechs, which she was going against a robot with a fucking crossbow. You ain't getting anywhere.
Just to go back, this is 100 years into the future. There's a ton of technological advancements. The Americans have all these massive mech warrior robots that they're using to kind of drones that they're using in this war. They're barely manned machines. They're really not. They're unmanned machines, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And Amber, our protagonist, and we haven't really talked about the characters much because there's really not much to say about them.
Yeah.
No, it's a ragtag group of about 6 people.
The main girl. Yeah, it's a ragtag group it's a very small crew of rebel fighters in this case, because everyone's pretty much been decimated or they're in some kind of concentration camp, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And they're fighting against robots pretty much at this point. So go ahead.
And so like they find her, they end up taking care of her, this like little group of people, and then they defeat this crazy big mech thing with this like glue type gun to like get it to stop.
Yeah, it mucks up the electronics inside.
Yeah. And then they find out that it's not man, it's not robot. This one was man, and it shoots one of the people that saved her, and then they test her. They're like, oh, we got to make sure that she's like going to be good. And like as they're having an argument about like whether or not she has essentially the balls to do things, she takes a gun and blatantly shoots the guy in the head. Which you're like, right? Yeah, well, a girl who like her parents died with the bombs, and her brother, her only other person she's ever known, sacrificed himself by being taken to a concentration camp, which you find out later on he's alive. Cool, but like that was one thing that was not surprising to me. Like the reaction, like the reactions that we like the Canadians were having, I was not like, I feel like he was trying to go for like a shock factor, but I'm like, no. Like, if that's happening, yeah, I would do that. It's just like...
Well, that's fine. I mean, the fact that first of all, these are people, they're rebel fighters, and then they find this random girl by herself who claims to be Canadian. They save her, but you don't just trust anyone just because, they claim to be Canadian. You need her to prove that she is. It's kind of a backwards way. Like, if she is that deep and she's going to go that deep undercover, anyone that's that deep undercover would shoot whoever they, like if I was undercover, I would shoot whoever they tell me to shoot because I'm undercover. Yeah, I'm supposed to play my.
Yeah, exactly. That's
exactly.
The whole thing, yeah.
So that's not really a tried and true tested way to prove for someone to prove that they're on your side. But she does it anyway because obviously we know she's Canadian in her story, but they don't know. But this is how she goes. Hey, you know what? I'm going to prove it. I'll shoot this guy in the head, and she does.
Yeah.
And then they take her back to the hideout. They don't tell her where the hideout is, obviously, because they still don't trust her, so they blindfold her. And the interrogator in all this on the American side of things is called the American, because that's what everybody, I guess, labeled her as, since she's the one who does most of the torturing and trying to get the information out of high level or low level rebels.
Yeah, and to add on, when they bring Amber back to their base at the same time. The Americans end up capturing the 2-4's like leader. Just to continue what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. So this is all like everything we're saying is all happening very quickly, all in the same sequence. They find Amber, they're taking her back to the base. The leader of the rebels is like, I'm going to stay behind and cover our tracks. As they're all going back to the base, the leader of the rebels gets captured, and she's the one we were talking about earlier, who was being tortured over and over in her head in virtual reality, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
But she can still feel what's happening. And yeah, I mean, is there really much more to say about this in terms of development or anything that's happened?
I mean, at least with the American, they at least show her have some, like, you could tell that she is prideful on her job, that she's prideful about being American and whatnot, but like she has some, no, but she has some sympathy is what I was going to go for. For example, when she was done the torture, I mean, I don't know if this is true because for all you know, they may have just killed this girl off screen. But because she's like, first of all, she's just a hologram of herself because she's like, I'm not really here. I'm too busy to be here. But like as she's fading away after they finally break the chief, they're like, oh, I'll make sure that you could see something peaceful for the rest of what's going on. Oh, no, she survives because she ends up meeting Amber's brother in the concentration camp. But she's like, for now, I'll let them play something nice in your head because you could tell the look on her face. She's like, I'm disgusted with what I just did.
Yeah, I don't know if that's disgust or if it's like... Sorry, go ahead, Toby.
Sorry, dude. I was going to say that the only reason I think we get that little glimpse into her is because she finally revealed something personal about herself at that point, letting her know she's not American. I'm actually Canadian. Right?
No, that happens with Amber. That doesn't happen with the chief.
That doesn't happen with the chief?
No, it happens with Amber because that's what made me wonder, was the American lying to Amber? Because their conversation, because like just so that everyone else understands, because like there's not really much story to give. So after Amber gets to the base, everyone has a discussion. They're like, oh, we have a mech warrior that's working now. We could try and get a feed and have Lepage, who's like this Canadian actor, comedian. If we could get him to go on the airwaves, it could help revolts and it could help, it
could stoke the flames of rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. And so they decide, okay, we're going to go do that because the Americans are coming to get them anyways. There's like a fleet coming after them. And then Ember puts on a dead switch bomb to her chest, jumps into like their base, and is like, I'm going to blow everything up if you guys don't get the fuck out of my like, not just out of this territory, get the fuck out of my country.
Yeah.
And then her and the American are like having, which apparently this is a big deal at that point in time. You don't really know. And as they're talking, you find out the Americans like, trying to coerce Amber to not blow everything up, mainly because where they're actually located is like on top of some type of a mineral deposit of sorts that if it were to catch fire, it would blow everything up and destroy potentially all our water, like they were insinuating, or a decent chunk of our water, which is
it would poison the water that they're trying to pretty much capture up in the northwestern territories.
Yeah, exactly.
It would load it. It would poison it with some carcinogens. That's what it was.
Yeah. And so when they're having this conversation, the American ends up confessing to her like, "Oh, I was actually born in Toronto, but we moved to New York, so I got my citizenship, and no one ever cared to research." And you're like, you're looking at there like, considering what just went down, I really thought that was a whole heap of fucking lie. Like when she was talking to her, I'm like, you are lying. And even Amber, you could see the look on her face. She's like, you're full of shit.
Well, for me,
I don't believe you.
The American doesn't represent anything positive. If anything, the American literally represents what America is supposed to be, which is manipulative, and will do anything. Like,
I'm not saying America's manipulative.
No, but the writer is like Brian K. Vaughan's commentary with that character to me seemed really like, this character will do anything the character has to do to get what the character wants, and will, with one hand smack the out of you, and then with the other hand offer you something to drink moments later, being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, then smack you in the face again. "Oh, I didn't mean to do that." Smack you, because that's what it is, right?
It really is.
Yeah, It's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah, and that's what
I love you, baby.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? That's the joke about America. America is, when this whole thing was happening politically recently, the joke that a lot of people were saying is like, well, citizens of America are like an abused partners, because as much as America as a country has done, and as much as their leadership has done, Americans will still be there like, yeah, but this is the greatest nation in the world. And you're like, thank God, man. And that's what I feel like Kay Vaughan's trying to say. Like, I don't know if Kay Vaughan's actually saying it as in, we are actually the greatest nation in the world, and even if this person was supposedly Canadian, look at them, they're a turncoat at the end. They're just like, they're even willing to turn themselves. They're not truly American. Or the flip side, that they're lying because they're willing to manipulate anything. I don't know.
But I don't know.
And the other characters in this movie, like the ragtag group of rebels that we find, like literally every single one of them pretty much dies.
Yeah, I know.
Or almost dies.
As soon as we start getting some sort of like information on their backstory, they're just killed off. And to kind of move the story along, I feel is why. And Amber, who's our main protagonist, and her B plot in this whole thing is trying to find her brother ever since she was a kid. And obviously halfway through the, I think, third issue or something like that, we find out the brother is still alive. She, like you said, ends up blowing herself up at the end.
Yeah.
For this cause. For the greater good, I guess she gives up on her brother being alive at that point? Or what do you think is...
I think that in her
what
head,
do you think
she's like...
drove her at that point? She became so gung-ho to go to war, like... after a certain amount of time.
There's a term for it. I don't know what it is. It might be PDSB. I'm not too sure, but it's one of those situations where it's like, I feel like I've lost everything. I don't care about anything anymore. If I do this, everyone else wins. I'm good. I'm calling it a day. That's what I felt that she was doing. And if anything, in the back of her mind, she's like, if my brother is alive, he's in one of these concentration camps. If I end up ever finding him, it's very unlikely. This is the one way that if he is alive, I'm saving him. Yeah. The one thing also about it for her is like, obviously the one thing that you could tell, especially when she loses her brother, for lack of a better term, she's soulless. She does not give a damn about anything, and you can tell. So I think that's where it came from. One critique that and
also seeing your parents blown to bits in front of you.
Yeah,
as a kid
exactly.
could do that.
You're gonna be scarred. and then your dad being like, take care of your sister, and he's like losing all sorts of appendages and whatnot. Actually, if you look at it really closely, you actually see that the mom got blown up in half because her dead body's like leaned over one place and her feet are also leaned over one place, which is like that. Yeah, that's ripped apart because that is not physically possible to be like that.
Messed up.
But again, like that's one thing that was very about this book. It was very gore. One thing though that I was not really a fan about in this story, like two things. I felt this was very rushed. Like. Even
it
the
is.
Like,
6 issues.
No, but it's like 6 issues that happened. Like I don't even know if 24 hours passed. Like if you actually think about like when they find her, like don't think about like the past that they go over, but if you think about when you see Amber for the first time and then when she blows up, it's probably 24 hours.
I would say
barely
48,
a few hours.
at most.
Yeah, I would say it's like somewhere between like 36, 24.
Yeah.
But it's short because
short.
it's like it's nighttime, like from issue 1 till issue 4 or something, or 5, where they actually attack their base, the two 4-star base. It's only nighttime finally, whereas when they went in, it was daytime.
Yeah, like there could be the concept that maybe when they gagged her and everything, more time elapsed, but like they don't really give you that type of
sense. Yeah,
but like the other thing about it is like 6 issues and we won. It
was very quick, very quick.
And to be honest, I was not convinced with the win.
Did we win though?
Like because like we blew up one thing. Just because we blew up a resource, does that mean that all America is going to leave all the other?
No.
How's that? How does that free all the concentration?
No, exactly.
Like I don't like everyone's acting like even the people in the concentration camps are like, "Yay, we won!" And you're like, but you're still in prison in a concentration camp. You're in
Prince Edward Island, which is an island, and if anything, they definitely blew up that one bridge that connects you. So there you go. Like
I didn't like at the end to get that feeling of win. I'm like, you won a battle, but this
Not
is
the war.
far
Yeah,
from a war, and you guys are celebrating like you just won the war.
Yeah.
And if anything, to be quite honest, if one of the reasons why I don't think they made a sequel to this is because, well, what's the sequel? Oh, they screwed us over. We're killing all of you now.
Yeah,
that's why. That's what I didn't like about the progression is that you killed off so many characters that could potentially be important to moving the story along, and by the time it's all done, you're left with 2. A brother and the chief.
Hey.
And now you're gonna what the next few issues?
What's his name? You have Q in Lepage as well. You have I don't know her name. I nicknamed her Q because I always had difficulty pronouncing it.
Oh, Kabani or something?
Yeah, you had her and you had Lepage and you had the dog. I very much appreciate, this is really funny. You could have killed all the people in the book. I'm happy you didn't kill the dog. I get really emotional when animals die any animal that dies in movies and or like TV shows or comic books. I always end up having to be like, all right. It's cool.
Yeah,
I'm a man.
I've had conversations with people about that. One of the things that a lot of my friends who are similar like you, they say the reason that they care so much when the animals die is because the animals have no choice in anything. Yeah. Humans, at least in the storylines, are often, either victims through inactivity or victims because they're going against someone.
Or are they stupid?
Yeah. Whereas, like, the dog has, a pet has no concept of what you're doing. It doesn't know that there's a war going on. It doesn't care.
It's just like, hi, the master.
Exactly.
I want food.
Yeah.
It's just like, did you guys ever see what's that movie 187 with Samuel L. Jackson?
I haven't seen it. No. That
movie, big spoiler, but whatever. The movie's about like a substitute. If I remember, I watched this. I should not have watched this at age 13. It's about Samuel L. Jackson. He's in like a Dangerous Minds type scenario. He's a substitute teacher at a school. Underprivileged kids and all that type of stuff. He's dating some white teacher or whatever. They get offended about him because of his stance. They get offended. The students get offended that he's dating a white teacher. The white teacher has a dog. Beautiful lab. You're not gonna and people bring out the tissues, papers. If you're not comfortable with this stuff, but you see him come home one day with his girlfriend, and they're like, "Where's the dog?" "Oh, I think it's outside." And you just see the leash like really taut in the back. Like it's like as if the dog ran like really far away, and then you eventually see it that's really taut. He jumps. Apparently, the students made the dog jump over their fence to hang itself, and you see the taut like leash, and that's cool. But then they actually go around the fence and show you the dead dog hanging there, and I could not sleep for like 5 days when I was like 13 years old.
Thanks for telling us all that story in which now we won't be sleeping.
Well, there you go. Well, that's what I'm saying. Thank you for swearing the dog.
The whole time you're telling that story in my head, I'm like, if it scarred you, why would you pass that on to
I
others?
have not gotten over it, man. This is also supposed to be a healing time for me over here.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I enjoyed the read as fast paced as it was, but at the end I was left going, well, I guess there won't be any more because there's not much left to tell at this point. And sure enough, there's really only 6 issues of this, and the last one was probably 2016, 2015, I think.
Yeah.
But can
Was
I ask,
the 6th issue?
can I ask you guys a hypothetical?
Yep.
Let's play hypothetical. So let's say we did do an issue 2 or series 2. And let's say the goal of the book was not necessarily that we won, but we got to take shit back and we were still having a war. How the fuck do you get to that point from where you are now?
You're going to have to somehow enlist, and I don't know what happened to every other country in this scenario.
Thank you.
That's a good point.
You're going to have to somehow enlist help of another country because rebels... Yeah.
I've been saying from the beginning, my biggest issue with this whole story is the complete absence of every other country in the world. I'm sorry, if you're investigating who bombed America and America says it's Canada and we've invaded them, and all the other countries are like, whoa, Canada barely has a military that could take you guys on, like. There's so many factors as to why we are 1/10 their population. Even if you were to go 100 years into the future, our population growth at the rate at which we grow versus the rate at which they grow, we would still not catch up with them in any which way or form.
No way.
So let's say
we're
still at 10.
Like
Go ahead, sorry.
Keep talking over each other. Also, if America attacks us for our resources, another country is not just going to stand there and go, let them take all of it. Dude, we're going to want some too.
We're part of the Commonwealth. There's an agreement already under the British Empire. What, is the British Empire done at this point? Because Australia, Canada, the UK, Jamaica, like, there's so many countries under the Commonwealth that if you were to get attacked, technically we are supposed to support each other and protect each other. So if America, who broke away from them in 1775 and then declared their independence 1776, whatever, and did all their things, good for you, but you're not part of the Commonwealth, and you decide to attack a Commonwealth nation, there should be some repercussions. But this story is just 100 years in the future. We're supposed to just forget history and just ignore it, and we're supposed to just sit on the sidelines and read the story of insane craziness where America just bulldozes its way into Canada, and we're all just going, okay.
Well, I think...
Yeah, it wasn't that well thought out, I think, the story. Well, he had an idea, tried to execute it, and it didn't execute very well.
You literally need one line to say, the Commonwealth fell. Too bad the Commonwealth fell 50 years before we attacked you. You would have at least had their support. That one line would have been enough for me to be like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys answered the question, though. The answer to volume 2 of this would have been World War III. Yeah. The American is Adolf Hitler at that point.
But
that would have to be it. Because which is another actual. Yeah. I think, and I'm not hating on the U.S. I'm just being quite honest. They have a lot of guns. Yeah, and that freaks me out a little bit. And that's fine. You want to protect yourselves. That's cool. You have all sorts of rights. I'm not taking that away. But at the end of the day, when you have a whole bunch of people looking at a whole bunch of people who have a lot more guns than everyone else, it makes you wonder if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get too political because I don't want people who are listening. And FYI, I'm just going to give a shout out. If any Americans are listening to this is not a critique on you. This is like...
No, Brian K. Vaughan is critiquing you guys, not us.
We're just saying, like, we're just taking the context, right? Like, I've met many Americans. I don't think they're all... because everyone says the funny things about Trump and this and that. I think Men in Black said it great. People are smart. A group of people could be stupid. I think a lot of Americans are very intelligent. But when it comes to one of these things, it's like fear has a weird domino effect. And I feel that's also what this
patriotism.
is about. Yeah. And those two coupled together,
very dangerous.
It's dangerous. Yeah. And that's for anybody.
Anyways, Yeah, I'm getting all riled up, guys.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
move into our next segment. That's pretty much the discussion.
Doc's supposed to be all happy all the time, and I see this twinkle in his eye. I'm like,
I'm angry. I the only class I ever got 100% in high school was history.
oh really?
Yeah, it's the only class ever, and it's not because I'm not a historian, I'm not a big history buff, but I liked the facts of history, and then as you grow older, you find out that the facts that you read in school aren't the only facts. There's definitely, facts that were written by winners. So then I started to look up the other stuff for myself.
He's trying to say the losers.
I'm saying history is written by the victors. So,
always.
So when the history that I learned in school was written by people who were trying to protect the country to make the country look in a positive light, and then as I got older, I got to explore and research history on my own, and then I found out more things. So then for something to come along and project 100 years into the future and just ignore all aspects of history, I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, dude, high school level research could have been done to make this better.
Yeah, that's probably definitely. I'm okay with this scenario if it was like an alternate reality, but then make sure it's not that based in reality. You know what I mean? Like, make sure you separate it from the true facts. And in this case,
you use 1812, you use 1930, like you mentioned.
1930,
yeah. Like all those things were historical, but then you like just kind of tossed that out the window and went mad crazy with your story. And I'm like, whoa, man. Like, you gotta hold on to some of the facts here. Like,
that's true.
Anyways.
But if you numb it's a good read.
Yes, I will say that.
If you ignore all the historical lapses.
Yeah.
One thing I will
Don't
actually
be a
say,
Brian.
one thing I'll actually say though, and I know I comment on this, but I think it's maybe because I part of being part of Square Idea, I have to judge these things. I have to see these things. I have to judge myself. I have to judge, not judge, but like critique on my counterparts. I did really like the art as a whole.
Yes,
I thought it was very
Brian Vaughan does a great. He has a good team of pencilers and people around him. So
and it's interesting because it's lighter when it first starts and it's darker when you get to because they do flashbacks all the time.
Yeah,
it's cool that in the flashbacks things are lighter. Like it's a comment about what's going on, right? It's like oh, these were good times and now these are bad times.
It's true. That's true. Sorry. Yeah, we did that whole review and we didn't talk about the art's very nice. The storytelling, the pace. The pace is a little fast, like we said, but
that's too fast for me.
Like we said, it comes down to the factor of trying to tell so much story in such a little time. In my case, there are aspects that I felt were neglected and aspects that were tossed in. It does have great commentary. It makes you wonder who's who, what's going on. So, but that was fun. So, yeah. I mean, I'll add more in my final thoughts, but yeah.
I would definitely have liked to know how all that technology came to be too. Like there's some things that didn't, then it's like, okay, so 100 years into the future, we have all this. How did we even get there?
Yeah.
So
like a prequel would have been.
Or a prequel.
Well,
I'd be down.
A future prequel? How would you say that?
Not even. The first 6 issues, should have been just a constant, like back and sort of like a flashback and back to now. Like it should have been that.
Which I usually hate, but.
I think that would have explained this a little bit better instead of just going from her seeing her parents blown up to her becoming a martyr at the end by her choice. I don't know. It was definitely rushed to the point where it's like, well, I guess she wasn't the main character then, I don't know.
Like you said, the whole story does feel like it takes place in 36 hours or something.
Yeah.
So,
crazy.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Best, favorite, worst, BFW.
What?
Today's best, favorite, worst.
We gotta get the chimes for this. We really gotta invest in those times.
Today's best, favorite, worst is going to be our best, favorite, and worst weapons of mass destruction. And they are not limited to just machinery. They can also be people as well.
I disagree, but we can go. I'm going to stick with something that I control without manipulation. That's what I was saying.
What are you talking about?
No, because example. No, but example.
Yeah,
no, I could do a perfect metaphor. White Knight.
That line literally.
White Knight.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
White Knight.
Yeah.
You could claim that Clayface was a good weapon of mass destruction because he took everything over. But what the actual weapon would have been was the Mad Hatter's hat and his cards because he used those to manipulate. So if you say you're giving him more of a compliment on the
but you're giving us a scenario where sure that's true, but there are other scenarios where that's not true.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm not hating. I'm not hating.
Okay, so I'll go with my favorite.
Yeah, what
weapon of mass
first?
destruction.
Okay.
Favorite weapon of mass destruction would have to be Brainiac.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite weapons of mass destruction,
That's
solely
cool.
because every single time I watch a Superman, anything that involves Brainiac, I'm like, how are they even gonna get rid of this guy right now?
Yeah.
Or this thing, because it's just so smart, powerful. It should have taken over the universe by now, is pretty much what I'm saying. It's just never stops learning, never stops coming at you, always has a contingency plan. Even though you defeat it, it's always found a way to speckle itself somewhere else so it can grow again and come back at you. It's like a berserker. It never stops coming at you. So for me, my favorite weapon of mass destruction is Brainiac.
Cool.
What about you?
I will easily say it is. I was initially going to say Green Lantern ring, and then I thought of the most logical solution to my problem, White Lantern ring. You control all the spectrums. You could do basically whatever you want from all the spectrums. You are the creator of death and life, and you can do will, fear, anger, love. You have it all, really. Okay. And then on top of that, you can make
your weapon of mass destruction is a ring.
Is a ring that makes you do anything. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like it's kind of like your weapon. It's kind of like the superhero's weapon.
Exactly.
It's not really okay.
You get that's what I meant from weapons of mass destruction.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm thinking like literally destruction.
No, that's fine. Whatever. Well, no, because technically, if I wanted to, if I had it, and I don't want to play a Thanos here, but I could snap my fingers and destroy everything if I wanted.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Doc?
Favorite.
For my favorite,
the Infinity Gauntlet.
Actually, no, Cosmic Cube. I think the Cosmic Cube is one of my favorites.
Okay.
I like the Cosmic Cube only because of how, I mean, now it's a person, so it's both in this scenario. It was originally just a cube, then it became Kobik, that little girl. And one of the reasons that I think she is one of my favorites is the fact that she can be influenced.
Mm-hmm.
And so at first it could just be used, but then it became a sentient being. And then to use it, you had to be a master manipulator. And the Red Skull was a master manipulator, so you could use it. And then, but at the same time, other people who have been good have been able to manipulate it, or I guess, I don't want to say manipulate, because when Bucky was trying to protect it and trying to teach it, he was trying to teach that there's good in the world, and you have to be able to control your impulses, because you are essentially one of the most powerful beings on the planet right now. But it's just always interesting that I like the fact that you have to manipulate the use. It's not as simple like just press a button.
Okay.
Right, because if we're talking about that, a manipulated Superman is probably the best weapon of mass destruction.
I was going to say he's one of the he is one of the best.
So, but we'll leave him out of this one just because.
Right. So then,
because I already know who. Because similarly, anyways, I'll wait till we get to worse. But
so I want to start with best next.
Okay.
What do you guys say best? I'll go first because it's really short and sweet. Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones. It's probably the best. Like, it's the best. There's no way to describe it. They made a movie about it. Like,
it's quick. It's simple. It's kind of like amassing all the Dragon Balls and having all the wish in the world,
and like not just one
glove.
As many wishes you want.
Exactly. So I think you're right. That's probably the best. Is there anything else as effective, as quickly without causing? I mentioned Galactus earlier as a big weapon of mass destruction. I just don't know how effective he is, because it does take time to go from planet to planet through every universe, whereas the Infinity Gauntlet is literally with a snap and a thought.
Yeah.
And things are destroyed. So, yeah, I might have to agree with you on that one. I don't think I can do anything better than the Infinity Gauntlet.
I still want to use Scarlet Witch.
You could use it, man, but
Scarlet Witch to me
the way how you manipulate her is technically the weapon.
But what are you talking about? In House of M, he didn't use anything. He literally
played with her emotions, though.
No, he told her they're gonna kill you. We need to figure out how to protect ourselves. Do this. That's it.
Yeah, but
and then
you're not her brother. You're not someone she loves and trusts and whatnot. Unless you're gonna go and invest your time and be like, "Hey, baby."
In this scenario, he is.
Thank you.
In this scenario, he is. It's his choice of what the weapon of mass destruction is. So he takes on the form that he needs to take on to control that weapon. He's doing a Michael Jackson head bob for those who can't see.
Because the fact that you can use that character to also use Charles Xavier's mind to then scan every person on Earth and give them what they want to recreate the entire world. And that's the thing about House of M.
It's pretty insane, actually.
Yeah, and that's the thing about House of M. We didn't explore the galactic effect it had. Like, what does it mean in the Shi'ar Empire, in the Kree Empire? Like, what happened? Is it that those empires were also affected? I guess not, because there's only a range. But does that mean when they come to Earth, the effects start to happen? There's so much I want to know, and that makes that weapon the best and most interesting to me. Fair. Scarlet Witch, the best weapon ever. Fair.
Interesting.
Yeah, see, I got thoughts, Chris. I got ideas.
What about the worst?
Oh, I'm gonna go on a soapbox for my.
Okay, I can go last.
I literally hate the weapon I'm gonna talk about.
Let's let him go last then, so that he can do his soapbox. Toby, what do you have for worst? Because my worst is a person again.
I think my worst, mine is kind of not really a person, but it's along the same lines of what I chose as my favorite. But I don't like Doomsday as a weapon. I feel it's such a cop out almost. It's one of those we created this monster that just only keeps eating, doesn't stop, just keeps going, doesn't stop, nothing can stop it, just keeps going, and it's just like, well, they do stop it.
Yeah.
Like, what's I don't know. It's just a waste. It's not it's one of those like distraction weapon. I don't know. Anyway, my worst. And then nothing much to say about that.
Similarly, mine is Sentry.
Yeah.
Because it's a weapon that is broken. Like, it's a weapon who's psychologically broken inside. So even when you manipulate it, there's so much attention needed to make sure the weapon fires when you need it to. It's literally just like, okay, I've put in place everything I need for the weapon to do this. And then the weapon starts going, the void's in my head. And you're like, God damn it. Okay, hold on. I will fix the void and protect the love of your life. Just you as the weapon. Do this. I'm the Sentry. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. That's how it feels. That's how Norman Osborn actually went crazy in the Dark Avengers story. Trying to control the Sentry drove him insane.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually very true.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go on a mini soapbox. I absolutely hate in design, in thought out, in use, the fucking ultimate nullifier that fucking Reed Richards gets for many reasons. First of all, it is something that could like destroy anything and whatnot. Like, it's powerful. Don't get me wrong. It's not about the power. It's about execution in this one, people. Like, it looks like a cassette. Like, it looks like a square box, no bigger than a cassette deck, with no what looks to be no trigger. That has it's like the shaft of the gun, if you will, is not straight. It curls up. It almost looks like it's going to shoot you in the face by pointing straight. So this small object that could fit in a baby's hand is the thing that brings down Galactus. It is the equivalent of a elephant versus a mouse, except for the mouse is dead, crippled and retarded.
Yeah, I don't know actually. Like,
research it.
It's kind of like I know what it is. It's kind of like the Infinity Gauntlet in a way, right? It's supposed to like nullify all.
It's
nullify. It's supposed to like erase all of reality. I guess
its power is so great that in the right circumstances, whoever used the nullifier could take on Thanos. Where does it say? Sorry, I researched this. I'm just trying to get to where it says it can eliminate anything from existence. So in itself, the description is vague. It's like that movie Envy where they're like zapping the poop. Where does the poop go?
Oh yeah,
like that's what the ultimate nullifier is, and it's a piece of shit. Is what I'm trying to say, gentlemen. Like it's also a piece of shit because I just found out that even though it's insanely powerful, because in the wrong hands you press a button, boom, reality gone. If you unite all the Infinity Gemstones and stuff like that, which are the universe, they can pretty much, you can just make it go away and it doesn't exist anymore. And the thing that also pissed me off as a kid, this is ancient hate for me. You know, I don't know, did you guys ever collect the cards? Like the Marvel cards?
I have the entire collection.
Okay, I have a bunch of them too. Yeah. They wasted a card on that thing. Like they had like, you know, here's like the rookies, here's the bases, here's the evil teams and the good teams, and here's the weapons. And you're like, oh, this is so cool. What's this fucking box? And then like they show you a picture of it and you're like, I could break that in my hand.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like a kid would have it and just
terrible.
be smashing it against the ground and not realizing what he's doing with it.
Yeah.
It looks like a bulkier version of those clickers bouncers have at the club, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it looks like.
All right, so that's
All
the end
right,
of my
yeah.
soapbox. That's the end of my soapbox.
Understood. It's not a great looking weapon, that's for sure.
It's just, and the fact that
yeah.
Galax is like, oh no. Anyways, rant over.
Okay,
There you
I
go.
think we're good.
Cool. So
Final thoughts on We Stand on Guard, guys. Clearly based on the Canadian national anthem.
yeah.
With glowing hearts, guys. What do we think about
With
this?
blowing up hearts.
This-
Honestly, I thought the use of fear and torture and all that stuff, it was good. It provoked emotion. I thought that was cool. I think the art was really cool. It was almost too good. Like when you're seeing like people who get like their heads blown up and you like see like like the detail of the explosions in this is
yes.
little-
So the art is almost better than the writing in this one, I would have to say.
It's like one of those things where it's like, yo, I want you, but I don't want you to make a movie out of this because people will throw up.
I would.
There was not enough emotional stake in the writing for the art to really hit home as much as it should have.
Yeah. Or
I would have been okay with the artist being lazier. Like,
but I think it's also because
just
he's
a little
not
bit.
Canadian, though, right? He had to research for it, which is like...
wait, isn't the artist Canadian? Isn't that
No.
artist is
So the
Canadian,
artist is
same
Canadian, but the
Brian.
writer isn't, right?
Oh, sorry.
So, like, maybe he was trying to evoke something. Mind you, I bet writing this, to a certain degree, I bet he wrote stuff, and he probably did ease back, like, on it. There had to be some parts that he eased back on, he left...
I think this is one of those things where he should have taken his time on. I think it was rushed. Straight up.
Yeah.
I think there's a really good story to be told here. It was just rushed.
Yeah. Like, if you were to reboot or remake this, I would be kind of down.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of
and the first 6 issues, exposition, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or,
Like,
or
just-
do it in one issue. Like this
Sure.
happened, let's just move on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're not going to completely reboot it. That
Yeah.
being said, for me, I would regularly give this a 3. I'm giving it 3.5 only because I'm Canadian and I'm from Montreal. So there was a lot of extra tidbits, like just the speaking in French
Yeah,
and getting that.
which was really cool.
Like that stuff was cool as a reader, but like,
I wonder if people had to Google.
well, that's it,
For
right?
sure,
Because I imagine
because they didn't even bother translating.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like,
but I'm wondering if they
anyone
understood
else-
in context or, like, I wonder if it was possible to like glean what they're trying to say. But I mean, that's crazy because that's like if I was to read something that was in
Spanish.
Mandarin or yeah, I'm like reading it and then it's just Mandarin. I'm like, oh, I get what he's trying to say.
Like his facial features, yeah, he's upset.
I get
He's
the
upset.
context.
She wants him. She wants him.
Yeah.
She's angry, but she wants that.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
3.5 for you. What about you, Doc?
3.
Yeah.
3?
I'm gonna stick with 3.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's worth reading. I think that Vaughan is trying things here that he didn't try in other stories. I'm not sure what he was exactly trying and why he picked Canada in this wild, insane story, but he was really trying. He was trying something new. He was trying something interesting. And as Canadians, and I agree, we do not get a lot of shine. You know, Alpha Flight in Marvel
Oh, God.
regularly tossed aside.
Oh, God.
I don't even think there's any representation of Canada in DC that I can't think of any. And so, you know, it's nice to see Canada, like, we are literally right next to America, so the things that happen in America in the comic book universes affect us. So for so many comic book writers to just outright ignore us all the time, I get that we're a smaller market, but we should be affected by their stories. So for someone to finally write a story that is directly connecting America and Canada was interesting and was fun. So I do say 3 on 5.
Okay, definitely a fun read. I wish it was there was more exposition, which is something that I actually request less of usually. But in this case, I feel like it could definitely use with a bit more background for a lot of the characters, a lot of the story, and how it became to be.
Yeah.
And just I always rate these things based on either the author because I like them or a type of story that I like, not necessarily as an individual book. If I had to rate this as an individual book, it'd be a lot less, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna rate it against other Brian K. Vaughan stories that I like.
Okay.
It's not up to par. But
agreed.
it is a fun read. I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
Okay.
Like, actually, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to 3.25 because I just realized if someone came up to me and asked me, would you recommend to read this? I would say yes, but not the first thing for you to read.
Yeah,
Like that-
it's,
Ooh, that
I'd
would be-
recommend this as a read,
'Cause I'm
but
sorry, but it's not.
definitely.
There's other things I would suggest way before, unless the person
2.75. Then you're right.
like because it's
Yeah.
not. It's not actually. You know what? 3 for me then. Actually, to be quite honest, because like
just keep going down.
no, because but let's be honest. Like
just
out of all,
comes down to 2.5.
you know, but no, because it's a
2.5.
I'm saying
It's
at
a
3.
fun read, and
I
that's
got you,
all it is.
Brian.
There's
I'm
no-
saying at 3.
There's no substance. Nothing really stuck. There's no substance. It didn't really like grab me. It was just a fun read, like ooh, fun ride, and it's over.
It's
That's
a
it.
bare pass because now it's 8 on 15.
but I want to say one thing though. Shame on DC, because I just did a quick research right now. Shame on DC. The only they have some Canadian characters, but the only one that isn't you guys might know is Adam Strange. The best other one,
Canadian.
and by name, only by name, is the Lumberjack.
Oh god. On that note, guys,
Yeah, we're done.
We are ending this one.
DC, get up. Okay, win us
The
back, DC.
Lumberjack.
All right, guys, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Dave, you want to tell the people squared-idea.com?
That Instagram. You could also find me on Instagram at Merc_Witta. That's WITTA_mouth. By the time you've listened to this, Trinity 1 should be out, so you should definitely hit us up and check that out.
There you go. Toby, at that fit dude.
That's it. That's all. At that fit dude on Instagram.
There you go. I'm at Brian Holiday, HOLIDAE. This has been That's Canon. And thank you guys for tuning in. You can always check out our stuff on franklinarmstrong.com. We have Geektastic Cypher, That's Canon, Running with Wolves, The Morning Detour, and the latest addition to our wonderful collective, the one, the only K and Them podcast. Check her out. She has amazing stuff. If you guys haven't had a chance, all those episodes are available on franklinarmstrong.com. And you can follow us on social media at @AStrongFranklin. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back in the next issue.
Peace.
Peace.